Welcome to the Kentucky Derby 152 preview. Looking forward to covering this race with you. We've got a full 20 field of horses going a mile and a quarter first Saturday in May. And the Run for the Roses is as electric as ever this year. Wide open field. Let's jump into it. We're going to run through all the horses, one through however many we got to cover. 22 right now in the field. And then we'll go through pace projections, have some race replays, and I'll give you my top picks and long shots. Let's get into it. Starting at the top, it is your favorite off the morning line, Renegade. Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz Jr., the top rider in the country, looking for his first Kentucky Derby win. Now he's going to have to try to do it from the rail again as Renegade drew the one spot. Now it shouldn't be the worst spot for Renegade because he does like to come from off the pace, so he should be able to drop back, let all the other horses come over, and most of them go in front of him and settle in a good spot. Renegade is an impressive horse. He's won each of his two races so far in his 3-year-old season, including the Sam F. Davis and this Arkansas Derby you're seeing here, where he just circled around the field, went right by Silent Tactic, who was in the Derby, had to scratch out, and blew away for a 4-length win. Renegade is ultra impressive and is a deserving favorite. Now the questions are, he has to come from the back of the pack. Will he need a pace setup and a good trip? Absolutely. But he has all the potential in the world to do so. And Renegade is definitely a player in this Derby. Number 2 is Albus. Riley Mott, the son of Bill Mott, trains. Manny Franco rides, and Albus got in because of this Wood Memorial win that you're seeing. And he was a pretty big long shot. 11-1 that day. Wasn't really expected to win, just off of a maiden victory. And he had to weave through some horses. Got a good setup there. The pace fell apart, and he got the perfect trip. I don't expect Albus to do much in the Derby. I don't really like any of the Wood Memorial horses. It's been a long time since any of them have factored into the Derby. It's one of the easiest paths to get into the Derby. Not much competition, high level. So Albus probably won't be for me. Intrepido, 50-1 long shot, Jeff Mullins and Hector Barrios. Intrepido has struggled this year. He had a good 2-year-old season. Won a grade 1, then raced in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but this year he ran second in the Robert B. Lewis and then was really bad in the Santa Anita Derby at 3-5, just did not fire at all. Probably going to need to get to the lead. He didn't get to the lead early in the Santa Anita Derby, and that was a problem. Intrepido, though, is a long shot for good reason in the Derby. Next, we got Litmus Test, the first of the Bob Baffords, and this is another horse that had a strong 2-year-old season, but this year has just been so-so. A 3rd and a 7th place effort. That 7th place effort in the Arkansas Derby was very bad. The Rebel wasn't very good either. He lost to Silent Tactic in both races and Renegade by 12 lengths in the Arkansas Derby. Bob Baffert has history in this race, but I don't think Litmus Test is going to be the one that's able to get it done. Then we've got Right to Party. Right to Party was in that Wood Memorial that you saw with Albus. He closed like a rocket on the far outside, but he was an even bigger long shot than Albus in that race. Lucky to get up for second. Kenny McPeak is the trainer who won this race with Mystic Dan just a few years back. Hard to see Right to Party, though, factor into this race at all. The 6 is Commandment, and Commandment is a big-time player in this race. He has won his last 4 races, 4 for 5 lifetime, and that includes the Fountain of Youth win and this Florida Derby, the Brad Cox horse. He's ridden by Luis Saez in the Derby, which is his 3rd different rider in these 3 races. He won the previous 2, which is a little odd, but Florida Derby was an awesome showing from Commandment, where he just motored down both the Puma and Chief Wallaby, who are both big factors in this race. That was the biggest prep, in my opinion, of any of the races, the Florida Derby, heading into this one. So Commandment's already shown he can win, and he wins by close margins. That is the concern, though. If he's had to grind out these wins, now he has to take it up another level against even better competition. But Commandment is certainly a player, the number 6 horse. The number 7, Danon Bourbon, the Japanese invader, 3 for 3 lifetime, but who has he beaten? Nobody really knows. And the Japanese contingent last year, disappointing effort. A couple years ago, Forever Young had an amazing race. Probably should have won the Derby, finished third by a nose behind Mystic Dan and Sierra Leone. But that's the only time the Japanese horses have really been a factor in the Derby. I don't think he matches up just as well as Forever Young. And this is a pretty salty field. So Denon Bourbon, he would have to step it up. But you never know. He is a question mark in this race. The number 8 is So Happy, and So Happy is taking a lot of early intrigue at the windows. He won the Santa Anita Derby over those Bob Baffert horses, trained by Mark Glatt, ridden by Hall of Famer Mike Smith. So great experience in the irons. In the Santa Anita Derby, just rolled on by Potente and won by 2 lengths. A very impressive win considering that Potente got the better of him the race before. So these two have gone back and forth out in California, So Happy and Potente. It'll be interesting to see how both of them fare now, chipping into more treacherous territory. The number 9 is the Puma. The Puma. Gustavo Delgado trains, Javier Castellano rides. The exact same connections that won the Derby 3 years ago with Mage. And if that's any indication, the Puma could be sitting on a big one. His 2 races recently have been very impressive. Won the Tampa Bay Derby that you're going to see here. And he beat another major contender in that one, Further Ado. That was Further Ado's first race of the season. Meanwhile, the Puma had already had a couple underneath of him. So that could be a factor as to why the Puma got that jump and won by nearly a length over Further Ado in this one. Then he came back in that Florida Derby you saw with Commandment. Looked like he was going to win. Got nailed at the wire. But that means he's beaten Further Ado, and he lost the Commandment by a nose in his 2 most recent races, puts him right in the mix in this one. Now Wonder Dean, another Japanese horse, he won the UAE Derby, which is how Wonder Dean got into the field. And that was an impressive win. He just sat off the flank of 6 Speed, who's also in this field, and went by for an impressive score. But the UAE Derby winners also have not really done a whole lot in recent derbies. So that's why Wonder Dean is on the outside looking in, similarly to Denon Bourbon, the other Japanese horse, but definitely could factor. The number 11 is Incredible. And Incredible won the Virginia Derby, another Riley Mott trainer. He also trains Albus, so 2 horses for Riley Mott, his first ever 2 Derby horses. He really struggled in his first race this year in the Holy Bull, lost by 25 lengths to Nearly, who didn't even make the field, did not do good enough in the Florida Derby. But then he came back in the Virginia Derby, a much weaker prep, and won impressively. But the horses he beat here, not much to show from. The only one in the field is Arcelli, and Arcelli just drew in. So Incredible to win. While it looks good visually, hard to back it up based on who he beat. Chief Wallaby is the 12, and Chief Wallaby is one of my favorite horses in this field. He's a lightly raced horse. He's only raced 3 times, and he's only won 1 of those. But in each of his last 2 races, he's went nose to nose with Commandment. You already saw that Florida Derby. Now here's the Fountain of Youth, the previous effort. And this one, he went wide while Commandment got the dream trip up the rail. Looked like Chief Wallaby was going to get to him. Commandment held him off impressively. So it's a feather in the cap for Commandment, but it also just shows the ability of Chief Wallaby, who's been right there with Commandment each of his last 2 races. Maybe this is the one where he turns the tables, and he might be in a little bit better position to get the jump on Commandment this time. The 13 is Silent Tactic, who did scratch out of the field. And then we've got the 14, Potente, another Bob Baffert, just like Litmus Test. Juan Hernandez gets the call in his first Derby. And Potente in that Santa Anita Derby did not fire as well as was expected. He was the favorite in that one. So Happy beat him pretty handily after Potente got the better of So Happy in their first meeting. So Bob Baffert gonna need his best horse in this field, Potente, to step up to have a chance. 15 is Emerging Market. Chad Brown and Flavian Prat, so great connections here. And Emerging Market, the most unseasoned horse in the field, just 2 lifetime starts. But in that Louisiana Derby, went off as the favorite and looked like it. Now, it wasn't easy, but here he is going by Pavlovian, having to battle neck and neck. Golden Tempo rallies up the rail for third place. All three of these horses in this year's Kentucky Derby. Emerging Market, if he continues to take steps forward, he's a real player. However, the question of just 2 lifetime starts, that's never been done before in the Derby. So it would be a really tough ask, but he is capable. The 16 is Pavlovian, who you just saw race against Emerging Market and nearly held on for the victory. Pavlovian, he's the opposite of Emerging Market. He's been in 10 lifetime starts, so he's the most seasoned horse in the field, and early on was not very impressive, was in a lot of California state-bred races, but then he stepped up and has looked like a different horse. In the Sunland Derby, he won that one, and in Louisiana Derby, after setting fast fractions, nearly held on against Emerging Market. So I thought that was a really impressive race, and for a horse that is this season to be taking the step right now, he is rounding into form at the perfect time. I kind of have some interest in Pavlovian, the 16. The 17 is 6-speed. You watched that UAE Derby where he was loose on the lead, but Wonder Dean caught him. That's going to be 6-speed's goal here. Brian Hernandez rides, who was the jockey for Mystic Dan. He's probably going to need a perfect trip like Mystic Dan got. However, I expect him to be out on front in the lead. If he can set comfortable fractions on the lead, maybe there's a chance. But 6-speed is a long shot. The horse that's run exclusively in Medan so far in his career. The 18 is Further Ado, another Brad Cox horse. And he's ridden by John Velasquez. Johnny V, a great jockey. Further Ado, in that Tampa Bay Derby you saw, didn't get the better of the Puma, but that was his first race in over 3 months. Then he came back just a month later and looked so impressive in this Bluegrass Stakes. Drew away from the field, dominated by 11 lengths. It was the most impressive, just visually, of any of the preps because he blasted everybody in this race. Now, this race wasn't that impressive. The only other Derby horse in it was Great White. So he didn't beat the best competition, but he certainly looked good doing it. And if he runs anywhere to form of that Bluegrass back here, once again in Kentucky, just from Keeneland to Churchill, he definitely has a chance. 19 is Golden Tempo. He is a dead-out closer like he did in that Louisiana Derby. Didn't catch up to Pavlovian and Emerging Market, even though the pace did set up for him, but he was so far back, could only get within a length of those two leaders. Cherie DeVoe trains. Female has never been the winning trainer of a Derby horse. She is definitely capable and has a great jockey in Jose Ortiz, son of Curlin. So he's got everything going his way in terms of the connections and the breeding. But on paper, his recent races haven't been fast enough. He's going to have to step up. But if he gets a good pace setup, he could play in late. The 20 is Full Effort. He also scratched. Brad Cox and Tyler G will have to sit this one out. That's the third Brad Cox horse, though, to go along with Commandment and Further Ado. So Cox still has a good stable. And then the 21 is Great White, trained by John Ennis. And he won the John Battaglia on the synthetic at Turfway, then went same in state over to Keeneland and got embarrassed in that Bluegrass, lost by 22 lengths to Further Ado after setting the pace, just could not hold on. That was his first race on dirt. Now he's running on dirt again in Churchill. It's going to be tough for me to see Great White factor in. Oselli is the 22, and he is another closer who has been beaten by a large margin against these Derby horses. Lost to Renegade in the Sam F. Davis by 9 lengths, to Incredible in the Virginia Derby by 6 lengths, and then went to the Wood Memorial, I think the weakest of the preps. Only lost by a length to Albus and Right to Party in that one. But Oselli would be a huge Rich Strike type shock. And the 23 we'll talk about in case Robusta draws in the field. Now he could factor into the pace because Robusta wants to be out near the lead. He's battled with Potente and So Happy out in California. Nearly beat Potente in the San Felipe, then got demolished in the Santa Anita Derby. So Robusta would be a long shot, as would Corona de Oro, the 24, if he drew into the field. So that's every single horse in this year's Kentucky Derby, showing you some replays to visualize it. And now let's look at this race in particular. Pool all those horses together. Look at this pace projection that I've made. Here's the horses I think could factor on and be part of the early pace. Out front, the number 4 litmus test. I think that Bob Baffert might want to get him out in the lead, maybe set things up for Potente, who sits inside. Then you've got Pavlovian, who set a fast pace in Louisiana Derby. 6-speed, the shipper from the Middle East, who's going to probably want to be on the lead. And Great White on the outside also is forwardly placed typically. And looking at some of the favorites, I think Further Ado could get a great trip just stalking off the outside of some, the number 18. Right behind him, the number 12 is Chief Wallaby, who also is going to want to be kind of middle-y positioned along with Commandment, the number 6. Then a little further back, the number 9, the Puma, and Renegade, the number 1 on the rail. That's how I see the pace setting up. Overall, I think it's going to be a solid to fast pace. I don't think it's going to be blazing, but I don't think they're going to be crawling. I think there's at least enough horses that want to be on the lead or right there near it that it is going to be a little contentious, but I don't think the pace will completely fall apart. I also don't think that it's going to be so slow that none of the closers ever have enough momentum to build up to catch those front runners. So I think it's going to play pretty evenly for any of the horses in the field, which leads me to my top selections in this year's Derby. So my top pick in this year's Derby is the Brad Cox Further Ado. He just looks so good in the bluegrass, and his first race off the layoff, he was right there with the Puma. Now he steps up again. He could be a monster. I think Further Ado has the most potential in this field to just dominate. And I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. I think he's going to run a great trip. And if he has that juice turning for home, he could definitely win it. My second pick, and this one is so close, kind of like Journalism and Sovereignty were last year. Well, it's a horse trained by the same trainer as Sovereignty, and it is Belmont on Chief Wallaby. Chief Wallaby, he hasn't won these big races yet, but I think this could be his moment. I like Chief Wallaby as my second pick in this year's Derby. My third selection will be the favorite Renegade. Closer from the rail. He's got a few things working against him, but the talent is there. Irad Ortiz, he's due for a Kentucky Derby win. And then my fourth and final pick to round things out will be the Puma, number 9 horse, who has been wide in all of his races. I think he has a great draw this time. And if he is able to get a good trip, that's going to be an issue potentially. But if he is and he times that run, he went just a little bit early in the Florida Derby. Commandment was able to catch him. If he times that run, could be getting crowned with the roses when it's all said and done. Now, if you want to spice up some tickets, add some long shots. Here's my favorite long shots to use. The 15 Emerging Market. You couldn't ask for more than Pratt as your jockey, Chad Brown as your trainer. He's only got 2 lifetime starts though, so I kind of want at least double digits on Emerging Market, but he is my favorite long shot. To go along with that, another horse that's got great connections, DeVoe and Jose Ortiz. Golden Tempo. He's a closer, but those closers typically do pick up the pieces for those 3rd and 4th spots. I could see him doing that. My favorite front runner is my next long shot play, and it's Pavlovian. Pavlovian is improving at the right time. He's got experience. He already went fast and ran far in the Louisiana Derby, nearly beating Emerging Market. So my top 3 long shot picks are all those 3 horses out of the Louisiana Derby. And then my final long shot pick is Incredibolt. He hasn't beaten much, but he's won at Churchill Downs, and he did look impressive in his last race. So don't expect Incredibolt to be there, but it wouldn't shock me. So there are my top picks and long shot selections for this year's Kentucky Derby. Let's have a blast on Derby Day, and we'll see who wins this year's Run for the Roses.